In this session, we'll see how to create the third part. Now to create the third part, once again I am going to use the same top-down assembly method. So let me go with again create a component in the assembly mode, select the icon, then go with type as part, subtype as solid, and here I am specifying the name of that component as nut. Let me give the name as nut, and then I am going with OK. Now in the creation options I am selecting here create features, then again you can go with OK here. Now the nut is activated, and even you can read here it is telling that the active part is nut. Then let me create the nut exactly at the bottom of this rectangular plate. So I am going with extrude, placement, define, and I am selecting this bottom surface as the sketching plane. Then I'll go with the sketch. Now again here I am selecting, I want a nut which is going to have a hole, and the hole diameter of that nut will be equal to that of the bolt. So here I am taking the bolt diameter as a reference. You can see here I have taken that bolt diameter as a reference. Now I am taking first one circle, then let me take one more circle here, and this larger one I am going to use to create the hexagon shape. Again here also I am going to use center lines. And let me take the horizontal and vertical references so that I can define here the angles. And now I am going with angle. Let me create here the new angles. Then I am making both to be 60 and 60. Now as usual you can join them. Then convert this circle into a construction one, and I will try to extrude this. Extrude it and specify the depth. What are the depth you want you can specify here. Then accept it. Now this is the first feature which I have created for the nut. Then the second one I want to go with revolve cut. And again here also just like bolt, how we have created the revolve cut by selecting two faces side. In the same fashion even for the nut also we can select two faces side and we can create one triangle completely outside the nut. So let me go with here revolve cut, revolve, remove material, placement, define, and now I am selecting the right plane and the sketching plane. And again here I am selecting the top and side surface as references. And for this nut I want the chamfer on both top as well as at the bottom. So let me draw here two triangles. One I am going to draw here on the top. The second one I am taking here at the bottom. Then we need a center reference to place the center line. So here exactly at the center I am creating one center line. Now accept it and see the result. So this is how on top as well as at the bottom it is going to remove the material from the corners. Now even for the nut I want to provide that cosmetic thread, and we have seen the cosmetic thread feature how to apply for a bolt. Similarly I want to apply even for this nut, but here in this case because it is nut I am going to take same cosmetic thread feature for a whole surface. Now clearly I want to view that whole surface. So for that let me do one thing. First I am going to hide here the bolt and the block. Let me select the bolt here. Because it is assembly, as we know we can hide the components. So hide the block, then select the bolt, and even you can hide the bolt. Now clearly you can see here the nut. Then now let me go with insert cosmetic thread. And the thread surface I am selecting here the whole surface. The start surface I am selecting the top surface. Then the direction it is asking, let me accept the same direction. I am going to OK here. Then I want this thread up to the bottom surface, so I am going up to the surface and let me select the bottom surface. Now it is asking the diameter, and because it is internal threading, what are the diameter we are going to specify of the cosmetic thread? That should be greater than the whole dia. So I am taking here 200, a round figure. Then go to done and see the preview. You can keep this from the front view and go with wireframe. So this is the surface which is created exactly around that hole. So with this we have completed all the features related to the nut. Now as usual, you can unhide the first two parts. Select them, right click and go with unhide. And if you complete the part, as we know, once again we are supposed to activate the assembly. So select the assembly, right click and go with activate. So this is how we can create here number of components. One by one component we can create here itself in the assembly mode by going with create a component. And this assembly I have created completely using top down method. And after creating the components, once again if you want to modify any component, you can select that component. Let me say, now if I want to modify the bolt, I can select the bolt, right click and you can go with activate. If you want to modify any feature related to that bolt, first you have to activate that bolt, and now you can select the required feature and you can modify it. If I want to modify the bottom chamfer, I can select it, right click, go with edit or edit definition and you can modify here. But directly if you want to see all the features related to that bolt, then you can do one thing. You can go with settings, tree filters, and here in the tree filters you can switch on the features. Switch on the features and say apply. Now here it is going to give you the complete list of each and every component whatever we have created. Now here you can choose bolt component features, and what are the feature you want to modify, you can select it directly from this model tree and you can redefine. So one by one we can select it. Now after modification, once again you can go with assembly and say activate. Now the assembly will be activated. Now we'll do one thing, we'll go with block, right click, say activate. Now I want to increase here the radius of this particular round. So let me go with round feature, edit definition. Let me increase this fillet radius. See the preview, accept it. Now again after modification, once again you can activate the assembly. So with this, the part is modified. So this is how one by one we can create here, and even at whatever the stage you want to modify any component, yes, you can select that component and you can modify it. And now after creating all the components, just I am going to save this assembly. Let me go with save and go with OK. Then I am going with window, close. Now let us try to open that assembly. Again I am going with file, open. Now along with assembly, what are the parts we have created in that assembly, even those parts will be saved by default as a part files. Now I have saved here only the assembly. I have created ASD assembly and I have saved it. But along with that you can see the block part is saved as separate part file, the bolt is saved as separate part file, and nut is saved as separate part file. And here directly we can select the assembly and we can open the assembly. In the same fashion, now let me go with again file, open, and if I select block part and if I say open, it is going to open only that particular block part, and these are the features which we have used to create that block. Similarly, let me go with once again file, open. Now I am selecting the bolt, say open. Now it is going to open only that particular bolt. Now the bolt is open, and what are the modifications you want to do, you can modify here. And if I modify anything here, those modifications will be automatically reflected in the assembly, because you see it is nothing but an associative. As we know, this ProE software is associative, if I modify anything here to this particular component, those modifications will be directly affected in the assembly. Now for example, let me delete this chamfer here, select the chamfer and delete it, and as usual I am going to save this part. Now let us open the assembly and we'll see whether in the assembly those modifications are updated or not. Now here you can see in the assembly the chamfer is removed. So this is called associativity nature of the ProE. So I modified in the part file and those modifications will be automatically reflected here in the assembly file. So with this we have completed the top down assembly, and next we'll go with the bottom up assembly, and we'll see about that bottom up assembly in the next session.